Come on. Hello.
So call to order and quorum, since we have folks on, or at least one folk online, we need to do it by roll call. So Trevor, you're here. Yep. Holly, here. Janice, here. Bill,
Here.
myself. Jessica,
Kathy.
Monica, here. Kathy. So we have a quorum. So first order of business is the minutes from our last meeting. Any comments on the minutes? Is there a motion to approve? Motion. Second. Okay, vote, so down with Brad and Mert and find out what their preferences are.
Let me have
Yeah.
one point, that we were thinking about increasing the size of the generator if we were to exploit the opportunity to buy a new one. But it turns out we cannot do that because the wiring in the building does not support a higher volt or higher wattage transfer throughout the building. So 40K generator is about the highest we can get. If we choose to buy a new one, we could have one that's more efficient, but not one that is more powerful.
Okay. So on the library, the solar panels are installed. They're not yet active. I'm not quite sure why, guy from Solar Logics was supposed to let me know. And then what we have to do, he sent me the paperwork. We have to fill out the application. I think it has to be signed by Janet for the credits. And then the credits are paid to the town. It's not something the company can do. The credits are supposed to be in effect through at least January 1st, so we should be able to get that. The heat pumps are gonna be, the installation's gonna start soon. I met with Mark Ogden last week and to go over, the plan. And so that should be getting started fairly soon. The Friends of the Library, I was contacted by saying they had they're paying, as you know, or maybe not everybody does know, they're paying for the solar panels. And they have asked about, what we thought about the idea of buying battery storage to go with the solar panels. And I said, we would talk about it. I didn't make any comments. Hi, Ava.
Hi.
So we're talking about the library solar panels. So I thought we should discuss here what the pros and cons of doing that are. Now, I did hear comment made by somebody associated with the library about, well, why do we have to deal with CMP? I don't like CMP and, they screwed us around and that kind of comment. So I think there's a little bit of that, at least in some corners, maybe not all of the Friends.
What aspect of dealing with CMP?
I didn't go into that.
Okay.
detail. It's just, more of a personal animosity.
Oh, okay, so it didn't actually have to do with the library?
No,
itself.
no,
Okay.
it was personal animosity.
Since you brought up CMP, and it has to deal with some virtues of, or lack of virtue thereof,
Yeah.
I just wanna say CMP has already set up the account so that they can record whatever is generated. So last time I downloaded the data,
So.
it was there.
So, okay, let's just start with, I did comment that, the way it's set up and we had anticipated setting up would be that any excess energy generated by the library solar panels would be applied to other town accounts. And there's actually, but Bill is talking.
That's been done.
There's a hierarchy of which account, goes to first and then, so on down the line, which actually is a real benefit to the town. There's different arrays associated with different town accounts, that there's a mechanism for using excess generated one place to offset costs someplace else within the town building structures. As far as, the other reason people want batteries has to do with, being able to be, have energy stored in the event of an outage, that could then be used, or when there's I think some people, now I haven't had this discussion directly with them, but other discussions, when people start bringing up batteries, they have the concept that, well, okay, the sun shines during the day, the batteries would release the power at night, and I don't think it quite works that way.
Mm-mm.
But
Well, you can island a battery, but doesn't guarantee you'll have enough in it to run your whole building.
Yeah.
Overnight.
Sandy has shown me her software and she can monitor the flow of electricity to the house, to CMP and so on. So it does go to the house, but what I was told when we installed our arrays, there's a switch we have, we turn it on, it might light a light bulb in real time, you know, so it's not a practical.
so. How to, I just wanna get opinions and thoughts about batteries and what we should have them.
When we have a power outage at our house, we do have backup batteries
Yeah.
and they run basically two computer systems, our Wi-Fi, the refrigerator. We're looking at, we just had an electrician look at our power panel, so we're thinking about, doing a backup battery, maybe to work with the furnace or the water heater, so we're looking at that as well. Cause right now, when we lose power, we don't need a generator, the batteries
How
kick
long
in.
do the batteries work for?
So far, it depends on which size we're using where, but we get a good 8 hours out of the ones for the Wi-Fi and everything.
All right.
Yeah.
First question I would ask is of the library and or the Friends, what do you hope to achieve?
Yeah, that's really important.
Because they can't store enough electricity to do much for very long, on the one hand. And on the other hand, the library is not used as much as any other municipal building is, and so we would be storing electricity as least used
Right.
of all the municipal buildings.
But the Wi-Fi is available 24/7, so having a battery for the Wi-Fi might not be a bad idea, and it could be a lesser size and.
Yeah, except that Wi-Fi is an old Wi-Fi and is not very powerful.
Well, people
Works
still,
outside the building.
people still go sit in the parking lot and use it, so.
Yeah.
And the goal is.
But they could also go to the ICC.
But it depends on what the goal
Which is a
of
warming
the
site.
library, basically.
Yeah.
What do they want to achieve by this?
Yeah, I
Very
mean,
small battery
is
to
it
support the
crucial
Wi-Fi.
to the island that the library stay open in a power outage? It doesn't seem so.
No, the ICC is basically a warming center and everything.
And it has Wi-Fi, high level Wi-Fi.
So
Okay.
I was just exploring this. We can buy a very small battery, a backup, like an APC power supply, you know, that would run the Wi-Fi for hours and it would be a few $100s. We don't need anything special for that.
Yeah, the ones that we use, every time the power goes back on, they regenerate.
Exactly. I have an APC for our computer, for the TV and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
I don't know whether I don't know what they're thinking, whether they're thinking. In a power outage, they could keep the heat up, in terms of, maintaining,
Yeah,
You'd have to have a lot of.
That's a lot of battery.
yeah.
Do they still have the furnace as a backup?
They do.
Sorry,
Yeah,
boiler as a
they do.
backup. So that's not that much energy.
Yeah.
To keep that running. So
Right.
that would be an option if they do want to stay open
Okay.
during outages. And
They would have no heat.
Well, it
Well-
will keep the boiler running.
Okay.
But more than that, the building's been pretty well insulated. It'll be, if it's during the day, they're gonna lose heat relatively slowly during the day.
So. It probably is not, like I said, one person did. Question whether they could be off the grid altogether. And so. There are several things. What are the reasons not to do that?
There's a fundamental reason why they can't do that.
Yeah,
And that is because if they were off the grid, then CMP could not route the output from their solar array to the rest of the town.
Yeah.
So that's completely undoable.
yeah.
Well, I guess I would wonder if you have a sense of what the Friends thought they would accomplish if they did this, because I'm imagining that they might be uninformed enough that they would imagine that the library could still be open, for example. and
Yeah.
That's not practical with this. Look, you'd have a
Well,
wall of batteries.
They can be open
They
with
can.
a small battery, like Holly's battery that they're setting up to run the boiler.
To run the
So they
boiler
wouldn't be running
and
the
they would need
HVAC.
lights.
Yeah, they just need a boiler.
Batteries, you can just have battery
It would-
lanterns in a
Yeah.
closet, pull them out and, how many people?
Right, so I'll try to meet with them,
Right, it seems like a
let's see if I can set up a time to meet with them and find out what they, what their interests are. I may see if one or more of you are available, because some of you are more knowledgeable than I am about.
Well, it's unfortunate that, you know, the Friends probably have the money,
Right.
but because, you know, another town building might benefit more, but.
Well, that's just it. What if, I mean, already, the town has put a fair amount of effort into the library.
Mhm.
The Friends have resources. What if we could hold their willingness to buy batteries in advance and find a more propitious time when it would benefit more of the town, not specifically the library? Would they be amenable to that?
Yeah,
Probably not.
Probably not, but it's worth posing the question, because that could be a repository of money, that could be a seed sum.
They
to do
specifically
something different.
fundraised for the library. They're sort of bound by their.
Yeah,
Their donor.
yeah, I think that's
I
probably,
could too, but I don't think she would change her mind.
yeah, I think that you're probably right about that. Bill, this is a little bit of a tangent to that, but it has to do with the CMP connection. Bill had sent me an email wondering about if we could talk about, the possibility of the town collectively buying solar credits from private owners.
So this comes up in two ways in my brain, okay? First of all, I know of someone already who is shuttling surplus electricity to somebody else. So I know it's doable, actually three ways. We know already and have known for a while that we can shuttle surplus electricity from the solar array to a variety of accounts within the town. And there's nothing to keep CMP from shunting electricity to any account that is specified by the person with the excess electricity, as long as they have a CMP account, right? So the third way this came up was in a conversation with someone recently who was thinking about putting in a solar array specifically to sell the electricity. And I said, So we were talking about how that would happen, and basically what would happen is they would produce electricity, designate the accounts to which that electricity would go. CMP would handle the routing and the billing, and then, or at least the accounting of how many kilowatt hours went where. And then the individual would work out the rate at which he or she would be paid back from those people whose accounts the electricity went to. Town could do the same thing. There's no reason why, for example, I could say, I'm going off, I don't need electricity, I'm gonna send all of my electricity to the town. And I'll ask the town to pay me. And so I can say, CMP's charging you X, I'll charge you X minus Y, you know, and it's easy to do. So the only point here, we have no such source at the moment, that would be of any real use to the town. But in the future, that might come up. Is it worth suggesting this to the select board as a possibility? That's it.
That's what our ETIP thing is about, is
Yeah.
making our own electricity and having our own little power company. I mean, you're talking
Yeah.
about somebody being their own little power company, and I
Yeah,
can't believe it's that simple.
well,
There's gonna be
they can-
regulations.
well, they can sign up, somebody else as long as they have a, financial agreement to pay for that, for those credits. You can't just give them away technically.
I
That's,
think you
that's
can.
the legal, well, technically, the legal structure is that you have to have a financial relationship. Like, we were investigating whether or not the town could put in the array, in between here and the preschool and share with the or have a, like agreement with the preschool to share credits with them. And they would actually have to have some sort of payment for those credits. That's what we were told, but
I think,
technically, we wouldn't, you wouldn't have to.
I don't
you
know all the
what I mean?
details, I could be speaking out of turn here.
Yes.
But I think it already exists on the island, that surplus is sent from one household to another household with an individual agreement between them. And I don't think any money is exchanged. Now,
Yeah.
okay, so and that has to happen through CMP. There's no way to do that other than with CMP's agreement. So this has to be explored. But I'm not sure that it's prohibited at this point. And anyway.
I
just
have a
raised-
strange question.
Yeah.
At our meeting about the vent, you mentioned that net metering was being removed from commercial accounts, right?
I think so.
So is there a specter of net metering disappearing?
God knows, there's so many specters out there, it's hard to know which one is coming next.
I mean, because all these assumptions are based on net
Yeah.
metering.
That's up to the state legislature.
Right.
All right, so, so why don't we keep that, it's a great idea. You know, maybe we can hold on that until we get some response from retail.
Would you like me to reach out to CMP and find out what the constraints are? I'll just ask it in personal terms. If I had some excess, could I send it to my neighbor across the street?
Sure.
All right, then I will do that. I will come back with some sort of a, I don't know, report, whatever.
Okay. Okay, the health center, Sundog is getting ready to start putting up the rooftop array there. And, the grant money that Cressica got to support, you know, that among other things that the health center is getting spent down, and part of the original plan was to do an array. And then there were some issues with, you know, where it would best be sited, out behind it, and I think while we still have money available, we need to move ahead. I was thinking of asking the folks from Sundog, since they're gonna be here, to see what they think. We're sort of not really at the point of putting out an RFP because we don't really have a clear idea of where it would be sited and how big an array we could manage to put in. Prices are gonna go up. As I said, the tax credits that are available now will probably go away by the end of this year.
Haste is important, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a big
Yeah.
thing.
And there's been an additional constraint placed on that last area that was non-wetland available because there's a new septic system going in. So we have, and basically that whole area has significant shading, just like the health
Right.
center route, so we do need to explore other options.
Right,
How big an array are you talking about?
I mean, we
What
would,
can we afford?
oh, I think we were looking at like up to 100, not, I mean, at the time when we had the 30% ITC, we could afford like up to 100 kilowatts or something like that. But we need to reevaluate based on what the power consumption of the building really is, as well as what the Sundog array covers.
yeah, I
And,
know.
yeah.
Is it possible, or could one put solar panels over a septic system? Does
Why
anybody
not?
know?
Why not?
Well,
That's allowed.
As long as the weight's not supported on the septic system, you could support it and can, you know.
They actually, it is a very narrow footprint, so it might be possible to bridge it, but we just have to discuss them.
So can I ask a
Yeah.
more general?
But it would require cutting down a lot of trees around there, which is not especially desirable.
So. What is the practicality? I don't know the pricing of this. What would be the practicality? Sorry, this is driven by the thought that we have a limited time to get rebates, okay, tax
Yeah.
credits and rebates, all right? So haste is an issue.
Well, also, we still have grant money, which is still getting paid out, but, yeah.
So,
Oh, but it's supposed to be.
Oh, that's right,
into
that's,
another
yeah, you're
account.
right,
Yeah,
yeah.
so what is the practicality of siting an array somewhere now? Anywhere now where space was available? You pay for the hardware, you pay for the installation fees, whatever. I mean, we could build the array ourselves for minimal cost, really. And then moving it later, once we found a place more advantageous to the town at large, you would have transport costs, but you would have already gleaned the benefit from the tax, whatever government support there would be. So what is the practicality of doing something? And I'll tell you what.
the piles and the interconnection are a significant labor and
Yeah.
material component. Sorry, yeah.
Why do we even have to move it? Why don't we, if we can put it anywhere we want and just have the account go with the health center, can we do that?
Well, the main consideration was that we wanted to reduce the demand coming out of the health center so that we might be able to avoid higher demand charges. We don't know, like engineering wise, if that's even possible. We have to look at, you know, the demand profile of the building and rate to evaluate those and see
And a
what their
battery could
peak
do that,
demand
yeah.
is. Yes, a battery could do that, but again, expense, we just have to, look at all the
So we'll have
options.
to sit down.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of our sloping field. I don't wanna say this too loud, Carrie may be listening, but I was thinking of our field,
No.
you know, it's a space of considerable.
I think it's both Carrie.
I know that there's no way the
Well, I mean,
solar array's not gonna
We
stay.
have all of those people who expressed an interest in doing our grant application, so there are potentially other.
All right, well, good.
So this is something we need to sort of come up with a more concrete proposals on,
Yeah,
and we need to work on that. So EV chargers, Holly, any update?
So yes, I spoke to Solar Logic, the project manager.
Mhm,
He is going to be sending me an estimate.
mhm.
I also spoke to the architect who, and I don't remember if told everybody this, but basically the conduit's in. At the health center, the connection for the 240 is available and it just needs to be wired and set up. And Solar Logic does not have a preference on which EV charger we use. So if we want to do, say, was it Flow, I think?
That was one of the ones that was
Yeah.
mentioned.
We
look
could
into
use that.
others.
And
Yeah.
so as soon as we get the estimate,
So
I can
did
let
they
you
have-
know.
Oh, yeah, do they have any recommendations on the kind of kilowatt output? Because that would kind of dictate what other brands we look at, because
Yeah.
Flow is a low kind of low level.
I think they just do 1 and 2, Flow.
Yeah, but they're like usually like
There's
3 to 6 kilowatts instead of we could go higher,
Yeah.
you know?
But again, doesn't that affect what you were just discussing?
Yeah.
The demand
The demand of the
going through the building,
building,
yeah.
So is anybody here knowledgeable about the different brands of EV chargers?
Mhm.
Well, just 2 towns had
Yeah.
recommended to us that, not us, but like at my job,
Yeah,
that we use Flow and that they'd had good experiences with that, especially with a third party installer compared to those other ones we've used.
so we need to do a little research on chargers to decide.
So what,
I thought we had a charger. I thought this was just a matter of like installing the charger that we had.
That was the original plan, but there were problems with the charger we have that it didn't, and somebody else can fill in on what the problems were.
Yeah, the commercial account was never properly set up and they were not responsive. I spent months trying to get them to set it up. And then basically our subscription expired by now. So we'd have to start anew anyway, and that service was just
not,
not tractable. Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, the service is one thing, but I assume that there's other like software providers that can handle the service. Is the hardware inextricably tied to the service?
No, we can use the Grizzly, but the goal was just to have an integrated service and charger and, you know, just have it. work.
So we also have space there to have 2
Mhm.
connections, which the one doesn't, our thought was to take the old one and. You know, we were hoping that maybe a nonprofit, or even the town could use a
Yeah,
charger.
Yeah.
That
Wouldn't the town using the charger be us setting it up?
they have to have an electric, no, they have to have an electric vehicle that didn't require, billing,
Yeah, no billing.
so.
Unless somebody wants to set it up, Trevor, go right ahead and set it up. I'm
I mean-
going, they wasted a month of my life, like literally.
Okay.
To that charger, I wasted at least 160 hours of my life, so I'm not gonna go there again with that charger.
I can't understand your reluctance.
It's gonna
Um,
be shit.
Yeah, I guess then we should focus on unloading that charger.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, the fellow program, Janice.
Yeah, so our fellow's name is Elizabeth. She will be moving in the first week of September and be here on a permanent basis the 5th of September, which is a Friday. And then Candace and I have like diversity and sexual harassment training, the first, the 8th and 9th of September, and then Elizabeth will gradually get going. We're gonna mostly spend time just introducing her to the community the first couple weeks and,
So do you have some kind of welcome plan for her?
well, that's, you mean besides,
Yes, I mean
event?
something less formal, like
yeah, well,
members of the committee or the.
well, we
you
could
know,
do that.
Folks, so.
We could certainly do that.
Might be good to
Maybe,
do it at the ICC since that's a cooperative,
Yeah,
we could have like a little coffee for her or something.
yeah, something like that, something
Um,
formal, just so she
maybe
can
at the
be.
cafe.
So once she gets here, we have our next energy.
What was the
committee-
date, Janice?
She'll be here permanently September 5th.
Thanks.
So our next energy committee meeting is the 9th of September, right?
Yeah,
So she could always come here to that meeting, or we could have a less formal.
or both.
Or both,
Go.
yeah. Actually, she should be formally introduced to the committee, but she should.
Yeah.
Introduce.
I think a more
formally to
social
everybody
thing would
else.
be
But-
nice.
Yeah, she's just moving in that 5th, so I don't think we ought to do it like the first day she gets here.
Is she gonna need help?
Um,
Well, she's renting the apartment, which is furnished, so
uh,
she shouldn't be.
Island Institute has indicated she's got it under control, but I will ask them again. And if they do, I will let people know so we can help her move in, but she's
Can I
kind of,
ask a silly question? How often are you and Candace planning to meet with her?
once a week.
Perfect, perfect,
Candace and I are both considered her
Right,
supervisors,
advisor.
advisors.
right.
We'll meet, one or the other, or both of us will meet with her once a week. She'll have space at the ICC to, to have a space to sit. And, I had another thought and it went right out of my head. So the first week she's here, she's kind of coming and going because she's got to drop off stuff, then take her parents someplace. I mean, she's got her personal life the first week of September, so we're not going to do it the first week of September because she's got her hands full already.
So she'll basically be, the week of September 8th is when she's kind of starting,
Yeah,
yeah.
for all practical purposes.
Yeah.
So what I do need from everybody though is, if you have any kind of paperwork of projects that you've done her goal is to be following up on projects we've already done. So I need as much as possible
Oh, just to get some data.
and,
Get some.
and I guess I have to talk to Cressa about what she's got. She's
Yeah.
getting that stuff ready.
Well, Bill, you have a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, what do you want? I've got all the town's data, with the exception of the school for the past 10 years.
Well, I think what would help is to not dump a whole lot on her all at once, but maybe we can sit down and you can be there when we talk to her and you can let her know what you have, and it's gonna take her at least a month to get her legs under her, so,
I'm available, period.
yep,
All right,
so,
well, that's actually, the, next thing that we had was the OSBO. Looking forward, when I met with the select board, I asked them about, I said the energy committee wanted to, include some of our activities in the OSBO looking forward. Brochure that they created and, it's on the website, town website, so,
yeah, and I had talked to them too, the time I was there.
yeah.
And they said, fine, so this is a rough draft, it's just a starting point for the conversation. It's ideas I had, if you have other ideas, what I suggest is you pick up the Islesboro Looking Ahead 2025. And you see what I wrote, and if you have other ideas, great. Go ahead and let me know, don't worry about typos and things, this is not meant to be a public facing document at this point. I'll make sure it wasn't done, dictated on the ferry, my spare time going over at 6. Anyway, so what I propose is that I just give this to you as an introduction to this is what I did. It's a rough draft. It's a way to start the conversation. If you have other ideas, great. Let me know. I will try to collate them and get them back to people. And then at the next meeting, we can decide whether it's close to being done, whether it still needs more work. So I did never intended to have us spend a whole lot of time on this today. This is just like the first attempt at.
First wash.
Yeah. And then, Peter, I would like to, when we get closer to you know, a draft, I would like to show it to you for comments and to, Steve Pendleton also. And we'll put all that together before we have a proposed thing to present to the select board. So if it's not next month, then, you know, it'll be another month. If everybody's okay with that.
Okay, so people can submit their comments to Janice, and then maybe next month we'll have something more.
Yeah, another go around
polished
to the
review,
draft, yeah.
So actually, before we go on to the community event, if people don't mind, just because that'll be a longer discussion. The ETIP application was submitted, July 27th we had 6 or 7 support letters from various stakeholders.
That's great.
I don't know what the odds are of getting, do you have any sense of when we would hear about it? No, okay. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. The community event. The community event subcommittee met and.
Yeah, so this is the basic outline of what, I mean, we tossed around some ideas and, one of the things it would be helpful for us to know tonight is like, how much of a budget do we have for this event and maybe for a potential summer event, so.
We have about $10,000 allocated to community events, plus there's additional money if it seemed appropriate in the prize money. We want to use that for this. So we have a substantial amount.
Because the biggest expense will be if we'd like to have food.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I did reach out to Jordy. I sent him a message and he told me that he's stepping down from his president position in October, so he can't really make that call or decision right now, and there's club is speaking over it. I'm not quite sure they'd be willing to come out and do it, just because on Saturdays a lot of the people like to go and get their things done, and it's fall time, so they like to go over to the Bainland. I did speak to Tracy and she sent me the athletic schedule, and we are not interfering with any soccer games that day, those days. So we're clear with that. But I did make it very clear to Jordy that we still are trying to work towards creating the sporting club to become a women's shelter. That we would like supplies so they wouldn't have to pay any pennies.
so
Is
oh, go ahead. Go
is
ahead.
Pete still open then? That late? I think he is,
I
so
think he is, but we have to,
we would have to plan
we
ahead.
would have to plan ahead and we would have to, reserve him to cater.
Well, we had kind of moved on from that when we talked at my house. We had moved on from Pete doing it.
Well, it was only if sporting club would come in.
Well, anyway, so I guess we still
So
have to
why
figure
don't you
out.
just go,
So let's just start at the top here.
Yeah.
So, we had thought we would, and I'm meeting with Candace on Friday to go over dates and ideas. So we decided that an early evening, like not too late, but potentially on a Saturday. So start out with information tables and get people sort of in the door. The goals of this event are to welcome the new fellow, update the community about what our committee's been doing, and to get people talking again about their energy experiences on the island. We thought our first choice for dates is October 4th, and our second choice is September 21st. I'm away the last weekend otherwise. I mean, you can have it without me, but.
so why don't we stop there and poll this group as to, their availability on those dates?
Oh, wait,
No idea.
I'm good.
I'm not available on September 20th, but that's.
yeah, October 4th is our first choice. Cause we need,
I think earlier would be better so that we can have time to incorporate window dressing measurements and like advertising into the event. Because we need to get our measurements in like in early October. I don't know if that would be too late after that. And so if we did in September 20th, then we'd have like, like 10 days for measuring afterwards.
That's a good point.
That is a good point.
I can't work, I can't do anything on Saturdays. I'm committed.
Okay.
Would Sunday be better?
Sundays would work. At least for me, I don't know about everybody else.
Sunday's good for me.
Sunday is good for you, Trevor? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
But if we do Sunday, then more than likely the sporting club will not be able to come and cook out. Because Jeff has been doing a lot of manpower for the cookouts for that.
Yeah, we
I
had
see.
talked about having it catered like inside the building, though not have a cookout. That's what we kind of left it with, I thought.
Are we,
Okay.
Um,
That's
not
a constraint I forget about. Transfer station.
I'm sorry, Kit.
That would be logistically easier.
Yeah, I think it would. So are people more in favor of the Sunday?
I mean, personally, that's better, but
Okay, and people think the 21st is better than October 5th?
fine with
So it would
me.
be the 22nd if it's a Sunday, right?
No,
Sunday.
21st.
Sunday is the 21st, okay.
All right, we got a lot to do between now and then. So the program would basically be, I mean, the times are, these are like working times. If you have other ideas, let's hear them. So, we'd have information tables around at least one wall at the gym, a buffet table on the other wall. And then places for people to sit and eat in the middle of the room. And then, some kind of big visual poster on our committee activities and mission statement, and then a big visual poster on, and Bill, that you could be a really big help with this, on ways that our past actions have saved the town money. Maybe get some
And
weatherization
then-
information, the window dressers,
Yeah, window dresser table.
yep. And then if we have E-tip.
Monica volunteered to make the posters.
Yes. And then roughly 4:30ish, the catered food would begin, because we don't want this to go too late. And then there were ideas of doing like the lightning round things that work so well at the jamboree we had, and so do like 10-minute-ish lightning round talks, and the things we thought to do were, you can see it written here, an introduction to what the IEC is doing, introduction to the fellow sporting club, if they're willing to talk about their energy needs, sewing circle, the library, and then maybe we can get people in the audience to pop up. And then the final thing would be, Trevor, if you want to talk about getting people invited to the window dressers. I didn't put your name on that, but.
Yeah, you can put me down for that. Yeah, and I'm
Okay.
helpful. I'm happy to help planning and organizing this.
Okay. All right, so,
I just have a comment.
Yeah.
About saving money. We need to be careful, especially as we advertise this event. We need to be careful about how we state that we've saved money for the town. Because most of our savings are prospective, not immediate. We put out a lot of money for heat pump heating. We put out a fair amount of money to purchase the solar arrays. What we have done very clearly is diminished how much we have to pay for fuel oil. How much less it takes to heat a building in terms of BTUs because of the insulation. But translating that directly and clearly into savings is complicated because, for example, as our fuel bills have gone down, our electric bills have gone up. And how do those balance out in the short term, in the long term? How are they balanced out by the solar array? In other words, just be careful to make not to make the blanket statement that we have saved the town a lot of money already.
why don't we say estimates of energy use changes with our actions?
Sure, I'm just cautioning us about the statement that we have saved the town a lot of money as a.
Well, I mean, isn't it potentially covered by just recasting the sentence into, we are saving the town.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Instead of, we have accomplished it. so to
Yeah, but for
speak.
example, we
It's a
just paid
process.
last year for this solar array. That was a chunk of change that went out of the town budget. This coming September, we're gonna pay for the salt shed array. Now, we're saving money every month, but we haven't paid back those solar arrays yet. So if anyone really wants to be argumentative about it, we'd be in some
And
difficulty.
there might well be a curmudgeonly type
Yeah, so
to
I
be
just
ready for.
be careful
Yes.
how you state. this.
So we're
It's very
saying,
likely there'll be people in the audience who will challenge what we have to say, so we need to be prepared.
Yep.
And Bill is very good at that. Having the data available and, I think it's always important at these things to recognize the validity of concerns that people
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
And, how we're addressing them.
but I think, oh, go ahead. I was just gonna say, the thing you presented at the select board about how, we paid off this array and now we're actually reaping the benefit of getting
Sure.
these credits. I mean, I think that's,
Right, but it is not correct to say at this point, we have saved the town a lot of money.
okay, we're not saying it that way anymore. This
Okay.
was, we hear you. We can move on from that.
I really do think this event is not only just to kind of like give out information of like how to help with installation, window dressers, address and welcome the fellow and give people information. But it is still like the question from a lot of town members is what exactly is the energy doing? So it's a way of saying like, hey, this is what we have done, this is what we would like to do, this is our future possible plans. And try to gather information from the community of what they think and their input of like how to help instead of it just being like, quote unquote, hippies taking taxpayer money and putting in things. So,
Somebody actually said that.
I mean,
Still nice to be
it's
appreciated.
gonna have, different
Viewpoints.
viewpoints, different political backgrounds, and it's just more so being, sorry, mom brain. Open,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Transparent.
Thank you, transparent
yeah.
about what is actually happening, so then people can see that we are moving forward, especially with the new change in the mission statement, that we are starting to work towards helping the community now that we have kind of sealed the deal with the municipality.
I don't mean to put down the idea that we're saving the town money. I really do not. I just want to be subtle about it, or at least clear about it. For example, in our case, we still have not paid off our solar arrays. But we paid $200, like $272 last year for our whole electric bill, everything, okay? So we are saving money every single day, but we haven't yet paid off the debt for the purchase of the solar arrays. That's just the point that I wanted to
I
add.
think it's pretty simple enough to demonstrate, this is what we paid, this is what you save over time. And eventually, I mean, I think
Pays
that's
for
not
itself
that,
over
Yeah,
time.
yeah. I'm not
But
trying to
there's
say it's
the- What do
complicated.
they call it?
I'm
The
just saying, be
payback.
careful how you state it. That's
we
all.
hear you, we hear you.
Yeah.
So is there any other discussion about the event in hopefully September 21st? If the ICC can host us then?
Just nail down a caterer and.
Yeah, and a budget, so is like, does anybody remember how much we paid for that lunch when we had the lunch? When we had it at the ICC?
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at it. It really wasn't that bad and it was really nice.
Yeah.
If we
It
have
was
enough
really nice.
money, then
So
yeah,
was it less than $4,000?
absolutely.
Yes.
But also, we don't know how many people will
Right,
join us, so.
so can I propose that we budget a potential $3,500 for this event, not to exceed
That would be
$3,500?
like almost less than 100 people, but
Well, do you think it
pushing
should be more?
no. I mean,
Why
there
don't we
can't be more
say-
than like, what, 50 people or something?
Yeah,
That
tentatively
would definitely-
budget 35.
That would definitely cover it.
And
Yeah,
if
not
there's a
to-
problem with that, we revisit it and allocate necessary funds.
We do have more funds, so if it looks like that's not realistic.
No, I can
then-
ask for more at the next
Yeah.
meeting. But that just helps, it gives us an idea of how much we can spend.
Yeah.
Are people okay with the idea of having these,
Mhm.
slightly longer than lightning round talks, or are there other people
I
you would
don't
like to
know,
see?
I like the lightning round concept myself.
Short
Yeah.
and sweet.
So that's basically what these are meant to be
And
like.
having had to do one, I really had to think about what the important things were.
Yeah.
Right, so the idea was we're inviting these groups to give very short talks and then invite people in the audience to also give very brief.
We can still have information about, like, do the talking is like, do the bulletin points of what's most important of their projects and their needs. And then off to the side, have the information tables, which are much greater detail of the
Yeah.
projects and their needs.
Are there other things you would like to see on this talk list or other things you would like to see on the information tables?
What I like about what we brainstormed is that it fits with the new mission
Yeah.
of focusing on community organizations. So, calling it community energy, and then somehow in introducing these lightning talks, highlighting that these are exemplars and other organizations can do things too, and we can help you do things too, as the focus of the energy committee.
Are the affordable energy people doing anything with clean energy at those new houses?
I have talked to them, they're very limited. They do have heat pumps and, they're putting in modular houses and, they're trying very, very hard to keep their costs down so that, I can't remember the details, but I know that Barbara Talermo, who's the head of IEP, told me that, there were things that, might have been nice to do that they couldn't. Now, I did have a brief conversation, they have a fair amount of land where they're working. Whether, there's space, where solar panels, for example, could be considered. They do not have the funds to do that themselves.
Well, would Pete want to be a speaker, the executive director?
I mean, would we like affordable energy to have a chance to?
Affordable property, I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I meant, sorry.
I didn't think of him before, but
Yeah, I haven't talked with him. I talked to Barbara Talermo, who's, heads the board
The
there.
chair.
I didn't even know he had been hired at that point.
Especially if the sporting club decides they don't wanna,
Yeah,
they're not prepared to participate.
It would be nice.
I mean,
But there is a rumor going around town right now that IAP is focused.
then again,
There's a rumor going around town that IAP is supporting mainland families, less so island families. Don't know how necessarily true that is, but that's just been going around. So maybe it can also be a place of clarification in a way. So,
Well, I guess what we would want them to focus on is the energy aspect.
okay.
I can, my wife's on the board. I can talk to her.
Okay,
great.
thank you. All right, so we're gonna have to meet again. I guess I kind of blanked out on that, so we can talk afterwards and whoever wants to come to that is
Right.
welcome to, but. And then the last thing we talked about was brainstorming for a summer event, so we're like planning ahead for once.
I think that's a good idea. No, I think that's a good idea, because this summer we just sort of.
I
ran out
know.
of time and energy.
I know.
Yes.
And so one of the things we talked about was that in our first E-tip, one of our goals, one of the technical assessment was to figure out how we could get to net zero energy here on the island, and the report said the only way we're gonna be able to do that is if we get the summer community to participate in, reducing their energy use and their emissions. So I was just wondering if we want to focus on the summer community for,
I think, first of all, I think it's important to not think about the summer community as an entity. Because it's not a monolith. I mean,
No.
the Tarantine Club has a lot of people in it, but it's less than half of the summer residents are
well, how
members.
would,
Like strategically positioning it. I think the idea of
Us
getting
to-
Niles Borough to net zero and bringing it up in conversations in the summer and organizing events around it is a great idea. And
Right.
we don't need to treat the summer people differently. It's just about getting everybody in the community on board.
No,
Well,
making
that's not
sure
true.
There's a particular focus that.
Okay, let me say this differently. How do we get the message to the summer? Because we've been focusing on year-round people more than anything. What are our events, we plan mostly not in the
Well, I
summer
think-
because,
having a summer event is a great idea. I also think that, you know, you get a certain number of people at any given event, but how do you sort of get sort of repeated exposures? I mean, it takes a little bit of organization and labor, but to have a table at the farmer's market is something that a lot of people go to.
Well, but how do you get to, and Janice was talking about at our meeting, how do you get to people who have large uninsulated summer houses that are running their heat all winter long to protect their belongings?
Yeah.
That's a specific energy,
So,
So I have a proposal for that. I know a couple people, if you can find the right people who have the right coterie of friends,
Mhm.
you enlist those people and you get them to draw in their friends. And it spreads that way slowly. And I think there are spokespeople, or there are people who could do this, who could help us with this.
right?
Thus, item number 1 on this list.
I didn't even know there was a backside to this page.
Yeah. And so what we were talking about, and this is still in the, the brainstorming stage, nothing's finalized. I've been going to the forums every Sunday, they've been fantastic. Very well attended, by a wide cross-section of people from the community, but a lot of people that come here in the summer. And I'm hoping maybe we can help identify a speaker who could
I think that's
potentially
I think that's
present
a
at the
great
forum.
idea.
And I don't know if the Tarantine Club would be willing to let us either give a presentation or have handouts. with
They
people.
wouldn't allow us to give a presentation, that I'm sure I've talked to them in the past, but last year. Alex Thorne did allow me, I did put something in one of the newsletters,
Oh, newsletter would be good.
and so. I can talk to them about, we have to figure out what we wanted to put, but I think. What was just said, if you're heating people who are heating their houses all winter. I mean, most of those big places I have no idea. How many people are actually heating their houses in the winter? Some of them definitely are.
Yep.
Many of them shut everything down completely.
Maybe finding out those data would be a good place to start.
Right.
If it's only one person heating his or her building all winter, then it's a lesser issue than if
I
it's.
wonder if we could figure out, the caretakers could probably tell us, but
Maybe the caretakers are even putting something in the Island newspaper,
Mhm.
an article about how like we're trying to figure out who leaves for the winter time, does not return.
Mhm.
And if you are heating your house or not, we would like to discuss with you on ways to conserving energy and helping preserve the structural history and integrity of the house itself. So, because I know there is a handful of people who do receive the newspaper off island.
Oh, yeah.
During their time, so that would.
And he's moving it to an online paper too, so
Yeah.
more people will have access to it with that.
That's great.
So I mean, I think with these grand old houses, if I owned one of these grand old houses, I would be like. I don't want to spoil the way it looks. I've worked hard to make this house beautiful and keep it beautiful and historic and. So I think coming at it with how do we. Come into the modern world with energy, but preserve the beautiful history of this island.
I think one way, there are people who have done this, like I know the Phillipses who. They bought a house on East Shore Drive and God only knows how much money they invested in that house, and I think they have. I'd have to ask, I think they have put in a lot, so I think one way to do it might be to engage some people who've done it. say, this is what we did, this is what.
Well,
we
and
did.
Monica's husband working for somebody who's doing it, right?
Yes, the Gallagher's, they purchased the old Devereaux cottage.
Mhm.
And they're doing as much as they can to preserve the house, the structural integrity of the house, while also they've done insulation, HVAC, heat pumps, all certain stuff. So, and he's gonna be speaking with them this week about seeing if they would like to get involved with us in order to bring in, because they didn't go with the window dressers, they went with, the Endo. They went with Endo, and once those were installed for the winter time, it was an absolute drastic change, especially during storms. One of the windows blew open, but the Endo unit stayed put, and like there was no water damage, no seed damage. You know, it does work, it's just kind of catering
So,
to
you know,
people.
What it might be worthwhile is getting somebody, people like that, I don't know if there's other people, you know, like if there is a summer event or to speak about it or to write about it
Okay.
in the Island News.
Especially if they would share, if they were willing to share the cost savings involved.
Yeah.
They might not be willing to, but if they were, that would be a dramatic.
Well, they are very understandable of the name of the house.
Or to the house that reduces its carbon footprint the most, or, do we want to give awards to local island builders? I don't know if as a town committee, we really can do this or not, but it's just a thought. And then my really like big, like, oh, wouldn't that be great, is these people that you identified that have done this, would they let us have tours at their house? To show what they've done?
You know, there's a
But
garden
that'd be
tour
great.
every year.
I- that's-
Why couldn't there be an
That's what
energy
she's
tour
saying right
every year,
here,
you
yeah.
know?
I think that's a
This is
really
this is
interesting
garden
idea.
tour year next summer.
Yeah,
I think
so
that-
maybe we wouldn't want to do it the same year as the garden tour.
They do that every year.
They do it every other year, the garden tour.
Is it every other?
Every
Okay,
other,
so-
every 2 years, because it's a big project to put together.
Yeah,
So if we planned that for not this coming summer,
So
but
here's,
summer,
Trevor's got up there, Islesboro. The net zero. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm glad you like that idea, but it's a lot of work. So I think the big challenge with this is to hone the message, figure out who we want to receive the message, and then figure out how we identify champions and move from there. So that's what our group did.
Yeah, I think the champions might need to be people like you were talking about. Who've done, I mean, I think, I understand the Solendes on their house have
They've done a huge.
done quite a bit, so,
They're still not.
I mean, you know, we're talking about people who are.
you know whether they were
New
energy
to the-
conscious or?
Oh, absolutely.
They were.
They use geothermal heating.
I
Oh, which
wonder
would
if the
be really
notion of it
cool
just-
to see that. But
Well, you
then,
know, somebody asked me about that recently. Why don't people on the island, somebody who uses it elsewhere. Said to me, you know, have you thought about geothermal energy? And I didn't know the answer.
So there are two ways you can do geothermal,
Yeah.
at least two ways you can do geothermal. If you're in Iceland, there's another way, you know, but you can either drill down into the water source or you can go lateral into the ground source. Okay, and a lot of it's going down into the water, and the water table here is challenging because of the refill rates and things like that. In fact, I
It
bet
has
the
to be
Slavs
a-
had to do a lot of engineering to make this work.
Yes, I investigated it for our old house and it was not practical. You have to have you have to have a right combination of variables in your land to do geothermal, and our general topography doesn't lend itself well to it unless you have a perfect, like you do, you have a perfect location.
Like I mean, for example, we could excavate our field and run conduits in the field, you know, like 15 feet down in the ground, and that would work fine. But if you have to blast down into granite, that's very expensive, and if you have to drill down to get access to water, that's expensive, and then is there enough water to fuel the system? Then finally, what do you do into the ecosystem when you take all that heat out of the ground and put cold water back in it? That's not trivial. So it's complicated.
you know, but
Well, but you know, I
Yeah.
think that's the kind of leader to, you know, a speaker. So So, sounds
the
like
only-
there's a lot of enthusiasm for.
So the only thing wrong with this idea is that we don't wanna leave year-round residents feeling like we don't care about them, so maybe we can call it something like homes big and small,
Yeah, because I was just sitting here thinking how many people, but whether it's really just the big houses or whether there are other medium-sized, not winterized houses.
right, so we wanna make sure it's open to, we include everybody, but like, if we use the garden tour as a model, they always have, you know, they have the grand houses and they have, you know, everyday life people houses too, so.
Right,
So houses big and small, how to retrofit.
So
You
it
know, I
might
have
be,
sorry.
well, I was gonna say, it might be the tour thing we might wanna do, not next summer, but the summer after. You know, start getting people interested, and then the summer after, we'd say, okay, this is what people on the island have accomplished.
I have a, I have the sense from the last forum that like they're getting going on next year, so
I
I
know.
don't think we should strike while the iron is hot, and I wonder if Patrick would have ideas in
Oh,
terms
that's
of
a good idea.
historic preservation of somebody who is energy conscious and has a big rep and who might be lured to Islesboro.
Oh, yeah.
And we are in luck, because Peter, aren't you on the forum? Board? And,
Yeah, Peter.
and Martin, whose last name, Mary, and
Phillips.
Miriam, Martin
But-
Phillips.
Peter, do you know what the timetable is for next year's roster? Are you there? Or are you just pretending to be?
The microphone is off, I believe.
Yeah.
Sorry. I have been here and
You're there.
there.
Wow, you're really here.
Can you hear me? Sorry, I've been here. I just was on mute. But it's very timely because actually we're just now soliciting amongst the people who are involved suggestions for speakers for next year. So you couldn't be more timely. If you can come up, give me or give Bruce Claflin, is going to be our new chairperson, any suggestions you have of somebody who would be good to carry the message forward, that would be great. I don't know how many of you attended last Sunday's forum. Dr. Mann from the University of Pennsylvania, who's like one of the world's experts on climate change, spoke. But, you know, for myself, one of my complaints about the presentation, which was just marvelous and well attended, and was, okay, how do we apply any of this concern energy locally? You know, what can we do right here? Which is what your committee is absolutely engaged with. So I think it's very timely. And actually, when I went to tried to reach out to Alex Thorne about climate change related to sea level rise, she suggested we just do something within the forum, and that was a way to attract seasonal residents.
Right, that's what she said to me too, that was last
Yeah.
year.
So
But she
you
did
like
allow
the-
me to put something in the newsletters, which, and I think we could,
So you like this
Yeah.
topic?
yeah.
Peter,
Is that me?
Yeah, Peter, do you
I think it's a great question. I mean, my own introduction to the select board was based on how do we make life on Islesboro sustainable for our children and grandchildren. That's what I think is my issue. And this is definitely part of it.
So the big question would be coming up with the name of a speaker in time to get them on the schedule.
I'd
Right.
be happy to contact Patrick and see if he has any ideas.
Peter, do you have any idea like what the deadline is for getting a name to you?
There isn't really a deadline, but I think this fall and sort of earlier in the winter, we will probably
Okay.
get other suggestions from Bruce and others.
Okay,
So, there are 6 or 7 slots, Sundays in July and August, and they come sort of March and April, they'll get filled up.
So Peter, you've done some of these energy, things in the past. Do you have any ideas about a speaker?
Well, I'd like to think about that more
Yeah.
during this meeting. I've been
Yeah.
trying to think about it. I don't know whether or not the purveyors of heat pumps, solar arrays, what is it called? Restoration energy, or what are they called? Something like that.
Yeah.
Whether there are people, I know that the Maine Coast Heritage Trust and the Maine Community Foundation have invested in a venture capital effort to support local solar arrays, solar energy, and we could find out more about that. I know the 2 guys at the Maine Research Institute, Coastal Research Institute, have been promoting energy-related development. So I'll think some more about that, but I have some ideas of somebody who might have a better more locally based understanding of what might be great.
Wondering about, I have contacts at Revision, and I wonder if
Revision Energy. I was trying to think
we
of
could get
remember the name.
somebody, really high up in
Right.
Revision that would have cred with the summer community.
Maybe, but I think we need to be careful about having somebody from
A
a
retail
commercial.
corporation.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
Not having it come across as a promotion
You're
for
right.
their company.
You're right,
You know,
but maybe
you'd
they
be better
would
off
know
getting-
somebody in the state who might.
Yeah, somebody from the university or
Yeah,
a
no.
research person.
Revision themselves, they don't retrofit old houses, they put solar arrays on the house.
Right.
Prescott,
They
do you
put
know
batteries
anybody
in
at
there.
the university that might have ideas for this?
Yeah, I can ask around. Yeah, and I like the idea of thinking through the Maine Coast Heritage Trust or GMRI, which they just announced in the same article where they said that our grant was terminated. They said the GMRI grant that they were looking at energy issues
What's
around the
GMRI?
coast, the Gulf
Oh,
of Maine
okay.
Research Institute, their grant was terminated. So
Oh, God.
we can, yeah, it might have been, I don't know if Peter was referring to GMRI.
Gulf of Maine. That was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, so that would be a good resource as
As
well.
well, and then I'm gonna try talking to the Maine Historical Society, see if they have.
Yeah, it would be nice to have, like both sides, like the like the renewable resources plus the heritage and preservation kind of thing.
Yes,
That
definitely.
would be nice to have a dual thing.
Or even,
Especially if they would give a combined talk,
yeah.
talking off one another's points.
Yep.
All right.
So this is
well,
fun, thank you
You know-
very much.
But this,
I
yeah, go
take
ahead.
Harriet's point that, if we get into hearing from people who have a financial interest in promoting one idea or another,
Yeah,
It won't be
But-
appealing.
yeah.
but I think really what a lot of people on Islesboro would like to hear about is what are the costs, what are the benefits, how do I do this? It's not some generic question about the Great Barrier Reef bleaching, but if I wanted to do this, be more energy efficient, how would I do it? How much would I save? What would it cost at the outset? I mean, it's kind of nuts and bolts, fundamental things is what I would think is locally would
Yeah.
have an interest.
We actually
You
have
know,
data. on
I, for 50 years, owned a very, very large summer house that was uninsulated, as many of you know. And, for many years, so what? The energy cost wasn't that prohibitive. You just turned the oil burner up. And as it became more and more expensive, we started adding storm windows and trying to insulate some of it. But it was, the idea of making the whole thing energy, more efficient was an enormous financial undertaking, not only in meant, insulating walls that had never been insulated. And I think it wasn't that we were unsympathetic, it was just that it was overwhelmingly large project.
Yeah.
But a lot of these historical homes don't have drywall, it's plaster.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
can't just knock a hole in plaster and patch back up, you're gonna have to tear it down and whatnot, and then
Yeah.
also. There are a few things that when talking about historic homes, especially up here, is you may run into asbestos. And what are you gonna do with that? How are you gonna remove that? And like asbestos removal companies are pretty pricey. Cause they come over and they have to do a certain.
encapsulation.
But
Yeah.
asbestos was in use, a lot of these homes were built before asbestos started to
Okay.
be used in
Or
homes.
something.
Because that was really more like the 20s to the early 50s when it was first, prior to that, there's no asbestos, yeah.
I've only known recently of running into, it was a water tank covered.
Yeah,
in
it's
asbestos.
usually like pipes and things.
Yeah,
like
we had
that.
that, we had to get pipes, someone to come out and take it off of our pipes and, yeah, that was not cheap. Okay, so we,
Well, this is.
I think we've covered a lot. It's been
Thank
a
you.
great discussion. We've gone over, but I think it was worthwhile. So we have
Thank you very much.
a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
So Trevor, in favor, adjourn,
Yes.
Holly. Yes. Ava, Janice,
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Me, Jessica.
Yes.
Yes, okay, you're adjourned. Thank you. Oh, I forgot to mention, Trevor, before you get off.
I don't want to adjourn. I'd like to stay here all night.
Oh, Kathy,
Be our guest.
Trevor? Oh.
Yeah.
I have, Carrie gave me, this is one of the measuring devices from window dressers, and she says she has another one and she's looking for it.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
busy. So